So following on from our previous video, we ended up seeing a retracement to the downside and then a push to the upside followed by another move to the downside. And so it's possible that the X wave is now complete, given that we ended up breaking our local top at around 72.5 cents and we ended up reaching around 73 cents. And the X wave could then be made up of a WXY structure where the Y wave ended up truncating, given that we didn't meet the typical requirements, which is a 1 to 1.236 retracement level of the W wave. However, we could have reached the minimum requirement, which is 61.8% retracement of our W wave. And so very quickly, if I check to see if we met the minimum requirement, and bring that to the right place. And yeah, you can see that we ended up reaching the 61.8% retracement level, which is the minimum requirement. And so the wave structure is valid, meaning that the W wave is made up of a WXY structure, which is something that we tracked in my previous video. And then the X wave is also made up of a WXY structure. And the Y wave is made up of a WXY structure where the Y wave was explosive and also impulsive. And so we could be tracking our wave Y now. And the wave Y is also made up of corrective moves rather than impulsive moves. And so if I go down to the 5-minute chart, and yeah, straight away you can see that the wave structures are, zigzag patterns as opposed to impulsive patterns. And so, for example, over here, what we have is a WXY structure, where within the Y wave, we also have a WXY structure. And we have this move to the upside, which is also made up of a WXY structure where the Y wave was explosive. And we ended up having a WXY structure where the Y wave was also made up of corrective moves. And yeah, same can be said for the rest of these structures. And so if I go back to the hourly chart, it's possible that within the Y wave, we ended up having a WXY structure, which could then form part of a bigger WXY structure like so. And so should that be the case, what we can do very quickly is check to see if the Y wave met the typical requirements, which is a 1 to 1.236 retracement level of our W wave. And yeah, you can see that we ended up actually extending beyond the 1.236 retracement level. However, we failed to reach the 1.618 retracement level, which again tells me that this is a corrective move rather than an impulsive move. And so it's possible that the W wave is now complete and we are now tracking our wave X. And should that be the case, the wave X would typically retrace anywhere between 50 to 88.2% of our W wave. And so ADA has the potential to reach anywhere between 69.73 cents. So if I draw that in, so 69.73 cents to 72.19 cents. And you can also see that the 88.2% retracement level sits within our fair value gap, or at least the lower range of the fair value gap. And this is a key area, given that we have found rejection at this level. So over here, 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 and it's possible that we could retest the 88.2% retracement level or the fair value gap, get rejected, and then see another move to the downside, where we then potentially tap into this fair value gap, which is also a key area, given that we have found support within that range between around 65 to 66.5 cents. So we found support over here, 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 and it's possible that we breach this region here, find support, and then see another bounce to the upside. And then ADA could then continue to bounce between both fair value gaps. And this is actually something that took place a few weeks ago over here, where we continued to get rejected. So if I draw that in, so we ended up getting rejected within this zone here, 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 and here. And we also found support within this range over here. So if I briefly draw that in. So we ended up finding support over here, 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 and over here. But then ultimately we ended up getting rejected and we saw this big move to the downside. And so it would be interesting to see if a similar scenario plays out where we continue to bounce between both fair value gaps, but then ultimately we see a bigger move to the downside where ADA can then potentially tap into this region between 53.42 cents to 61.75 cents. Now, short term, or at least on the hourly chart, it is showing us that we are bearish, given that smart money concept is indicating that we have a strong high and we have a weak low. And you can also see that we ended up having a death cross where the 50 EMA ended up crossing the 200 EMA. And we were actually on the brink of seeing that scenario play out over here at the beginning of May. And we ended up seeing this push to the upside, which then changed the trajectory of the 50 EMA. But then ultimately, once we reached around 73 cents, we ended up seeing a move to the downside, which again changed the trajectory of the 50 EMA. And that then led to the 50 EMA crossed the 200 EMA, which then confirmed that we are on a bearish trend. And you can also see that on the stochastic RSI, we are within the overbought conditions. And so it would be interesting to see if the bears begin to take control of the market and continue to drive the price of ADA down towards this lower region. Now, if I go on the 4-hour chart, it tells a different story to the hourly chart, and instead it's actually telling us that we are bullish. And here you can see that smart money concept is indicating that we have a weak high and we have a strong low. And in addition to that, we also have the stochastic RSI, which is indicating that we are within the oversold conditions. And so the bulls could potentially regain momentum and potentially regain control of the market and drive the price of ADA up towards the upper targets. And should that be the case, it's possible that we have a five-way structure to the upside where ADA can then potentially tap into this region here between 76.69 cents to 80 cents. Now, the confirmation that we need for us to determine if whether or not we are on a bullish trend is if ADA was actually going to break the week high at around 74.6 cents. And the bearish confirmation that we need is for ADA to then break this level at around 63.5 cents. Given that in Elliott Wave Theory, what you can't have within a five-way structure is the wave 4 cross the wave 1 or the wave 2 origin. And so, yeah, that's just my quick update on Cardano ADA. Hopefully you found this useful, and if you did, then feel free to hit that like button, and if you're new, feel free to subscribe. Take it easy, people. Peace.